Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment, here to discuss some new Tennessee Titans coaches. This includes their new defensive coordinator, Dennard Wilson, and their new wide receiver coach, Tyke Tolbert. The Dennard Wilson hired news came in a bit late last night, about 9 p.m. Central Time, so I wasn't able to quite go live last night because I had plans, but able to go live now to talk about it. And then also the Tyke Tolbert hire came earlier today, and both of these aren't official like per the team yet, but they're both by credible sources that we can believe. So we're going to go ahead and discuss my thoughts on both of these hires. So the one thing that you have to love, and I want to be a little bit hesitant before we go crazy here, but the one thing you have to love is that these two men were being highly sought after as candidates. Dennard Wilson had interviewed also with the Packers. He was in consideration of being elevated to the offensive coordinator position for the Ravens. He interviewed for the Giants. He interviewed for us. And I think there was even another team that he interviewed for. I think it was 4 teams in total. So highly sought after. Even last year was being considered potentially being elevated to being the Eagles defensive coordinator before they ultimately decided to go with Sean Desai. And we saw how that decision turned out, and he ended up going to Baltimore and doing whatever he was able to do over there. So a highly sought after defensive coordinator, very popular candidate here, a young and up and coming guy. Last 2 years has absolutely killed it as a defensive backs coach. For the defensive backs coach in 2022, it was the big reason why the Eagles had the #1 pass defense that year, big reason why the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. And although the DBs didn't play great in that Super Bowl, if you look back, they only allowed maybe it was 180 yards to Patrick Mahomes, but it was just a high-scoring affair, 38-35, and there were some lapses offensively that happened for the Eagles that allowed that score to be as high as it was. So even in that game, even though you can look and you can say, well, they allowed 38 points, then they lost the Super Bowl, the DBs didn't play that bad, okay? And they had played great the entire year. And then this year, the defensive backs for the Ravens played absolutely great, also being a #1 pass defense. And then this year, okay, they certainly didn't lose the AFC Championship because of the DBs. The only thing you can defend is, okay, Kelsey still played well, but that's a lot also on the linebackers, also on the safeties and the occasional corner as well. But also, for very much so, that was a lot on the linebackers, at least 50-50 for that game. And they could not stop Kelsey. Without a doubt, they could not stop Kelsey, specifically in the first half. But a lot of that, Kelsey was wide out. He was on corners, which is difficult. Kelsey is the greatest, or to me, by the way, and we don't have to debate this right now, why do people forget how great Tony Gonzalez was? Why? Why do people forget that 20 years ago, okay, when the NFL was not nearly the passing league that it is now, Tony Gonzalez was dominating and had better stats than all these tight ends. Okay, so I'm not even ready to say he's the best Chief ever. I know he has the postseason success. Okay, congratulations, you had Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and Tony Gonzalez had crap, mostly. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So great defensive backs coach this year for the Ravens, because even in that game that they lost in the playoffs, only allowed 17 points to the Chiefs with the Ravens offense that really disappointed. So without a doubt, the last 2 years he's proven himself as a defensive backs coach. And even then, if you want to go back to previous years, I like some of the work that he did with the Jets. He was a Jets defensive backs coach from 2017 through 2020. He helped Jamal Adams progress. He had Marcus May progress into the safeties that they become. And Jamal Adams now has some injuries. Maybe not has been the talent he probably entirely should have been, but he definitely, I would say, had his best work, probably with Dennard Wilson. He liked that as well. So overall, and then even, with the Rams, his stint there was decent as well. So a proven defensive backs coach. And, when you listen to this guy, he has had aspirations of being a defensive coordinator, right? He's picked the brains of former defensive coordinators that have been under, like Greg Williams and Todd Bowles, picking their brains, watching them work, taking notes, and positioning himself to one day be a defensive coordinator. So it's not like you're just getting a guy who's just been a good positional coach. Because, as we know, to elevate to becoming a defensive coordinator. Okay, what sort of system are you implementing? Can you implement a system to not only incorporate the defensive backs, but also to have a productive defensive line, to also have productive linebackers, and to have a good defensive line overall? Are you going to be an aggressive defensive play caller? Are you going to be a passive defensive play caller? Are you going to run mostly cover 2, cover 3, cover 4? What are you going to do, right? It's way more than just, was he a good defensive backs coach or not? And then from the little I've seen him now, a couple of clips, him working the tape room and him talk about different coverages and things of that manner. I'm like, okay, this guy's been studying up. Now, we got to see his tendencies whenever he starts calling plays. When you hear that he takes a lot from Todd Bowles and Greg Williams, I'm expecting him to be a big blitzer. Fine with me, as long as we have, cornerbacks that don't get beat, okay, which currently we do have. Our cornerbacks aren't great. They're not terrible either, but they're certainly not great. And I think he would likely need, at this point, I think we're all on board with McCray at least continue to be the slot corner. I don't think there's any debate there. I think Christian Fulton's done. He wasn't a Rand Carthon pick. I'm not expecting him to stay. I don't think he's even expecting himself to stay. Caleb Farley, can he get anything out of Caleb Farley? I don't know. I will tell you this. It might be a fit. Because if Caleb Farley, assuming he's healthy ever again, he's a pretty damn good athlete when he is healthy. But that was a while ago now. That was, Jesus Christ, it's been like 3 whole years. Technically, 3 whole years. So we'll see on that. But I expect us now for sure. If you weren't already anticipating this, we're going to pick up a high cornerback either in free agency or the draft. I think that's going to be something that Dennard Wilson will ask for, something that he'll want. He'll want to mold his own corner or maybe even safety. So I would anticipate that. And, there are some options, in terms of that. You're talking about like a Jalen Johnson, former quarterback, or current still. He's still technically under contract, I guess, for the Chicago Bears. He's not a free agent yet. Free agency hasn't hit, but he has an expiring contract. Also, Geno Stone, the safety for the Ravens, who was second in the league in interception this year, absolutely killed it with Dennard Wilson, has comfort with Dennard Wilson. That is an obvious match right there and one that we will all absolutely be looking out for. And while C.J. Gardner-Johnson struggled, this year he struggled. He was at his best, or at least close to it, with Dennard Wilson. So I know there's going to be some hesitancy when I bring up C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He played his best with Dennard Wilson. Okay, he did. Didn't play well this year, but played his best with Dennard Wilson. So everything looks good, okay? But just because it looks good, though, I can't tell you if he's going to be a good coordinator or not without him being a coordinator before. I can't definitively tell you that, dog. I wish I could, and a lot of people will, and I'll let them do that. I'll say it looks good, all right, but it's still an elevated position. Some men rise to the occasion. Some men fail. Maybe he's bound to just be a defensive backs coach. I don't know. I can't definitively sit here and tell you that without any experience. I'll tell you it looks good. Okay, I'll tell you it looks good on paper, and I'm excited. And I'm excited to see what he does, what his philosophy is, and how he progresses into that role. I will tell you, though, because he is young, he's 41, and he continues to be on the come-up. If he does well, I would say 2 years, because typically it is 2 years you need. Hell, we even saw this year, people were talking about Bobby Slowick being a head coach. Last year, people were talking about Ben Johnson being a head coach, even this year. And they didn't take jobs, right? Because usually you got to be a coordinator for at least 2 years. Sometimes you can get away with 1. It's happened before, and it will happen again. Usually at least 2, and I like that as a rule of thumb. I think it's a way safer thing. That's why I wasn't in love with Bobby Slowick like a lot of people was, because it's only a year. I need to see it a little bit more than a year. So I would anticipate if he does well, 2 to 3 years, he could be gone, right? But, assuming we're able to build a good program here, and we're able to surround Dennard Wilson with competent coaches, a competent linebacker coach, a competent defensive backs coach to help him out with the defensive backs, a competent defensive line coach, we would have someone in the staff that could take over. And having a head coach like Brian Callahan, who's been in the NFL now for well over a decade, whose father has been in the NFL now for over 2 decades, the coaching tree is expansive. So I don't think we're ever going to have a big problem with getting new coordinators. Whether or not they're good or not, you just have to wait and see. But I think Callahan's coaching tree is expensive enough to where that's not a problem. The one thing that's interesting here, though, is it seems like, and I could be wrong on this, it seems like this is more of a Carthon hire. And you recall that Rand Carthon, per the Titans, has control over the coaching staff. This is interesting because, I assume, because Callahan and Dennard Wilson have not coached together up to this point. And I assume they're going to get along. Okay? This is a Carthon hire, though, because it's those two that have crossed paths. They crossed paths for the Rams. Now, let me see what official years it was that they crossed paths for the Rams. Let's see. And looks like we have some bad news on Joel Embiid. What happened with Joel Embiid? Let me look at that real quick because that's going to distract me. Let's see. He's out tonight. I know that. He's not out for the season or anything crazy, right? That would suck. Joel Embiid. Ooh, he tore a meniscus in his left knee. And we're going to see how long that keeps him out, but he'll be out for the MVP race for sure. Hopefully he can make it back for the playoffs. I'd imagine, but it would depend. Ooh, that's brutal. Anyway, so yeah, Rand Carthon. Let's see how long he and Dennard Wilson matched up in St. Louis/LA. So this was Carthon was 2012 through 2016. So that was all the years. So yeah, from 2012 through 2016, Rand Carthon and Dennard Wilson crossed paths in LA/St. Louis. So this seems like a Rand Carthon hire. And again, I'm fine with that because the guy has a good resume. It sounds like he's ready. And I just hope that Callahan, they're talking about being collaborative, that they were collaborative on this. And Callahan wanted him just as much, if not maybe a little bit less, than Carthon, and that they're aligned on that. Okay, just something to note. Okay, because again, I still want Callahan. That we had some nepotism / some fraternity crap that was going on with Mike Vrabel and his staff by the end of it. I mean, it was all about him and his bros, Tim Kelly and Jason Hoftailing and Keith Carter and all of his bros that, he was in love with, that he couldn't find faults with, even Todd Downing. Oh, yeah, this guy's drunk going down I-65. Who cares? We'll just get rid of him after the season if I really have to. So, with that said, I mean, I'm fine with the GM having some input, but, just as long as everyone's on the same page here. So that's it for Dennard Wilson. Again, we'll see, and we'll see whenever he's introduced to the media and everything like that, but we will see. So that's it on that. We will also briefly I'll talk about Tyke Tolbert. So the Titans also got Tyke Tolbert. He is now the wide receiver coach for the Tennessee Titans, a long time wide receiver coach. So this guy started as a wide receiver coach in the NFL in 2003 with the Arizona Cardinals. That was with Anquan Bolden, and his rookie year should have been his rookie year, I want to say. And he had at the time probably the most productive rookie year ever, next to like Randy Moss. I think he was even more productive than Randy Moss. And now being beaten by Puka Nacua in the great receiving year that he had. But yeah, Anquan Bolden had 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns his rookie year with Tyke Tolbert. So you like seeing that. I also like what Tyke Tolbert did in his next stint in Buffalo. So he was with Buffalo from 2004 to 2009. So during this era, this was a while ago, they had terrible quarterback play, for those of you that don't remember, just awful. But they had Lee Evans, who was a first-round pick that was pretty good for a while. He just kind of fell off. I don't really know what happened with Lee Evans. But there was a time where Lee Evans was a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And considering the Bills' quarterback situations at the time, I'll give him credit for that. Also, your boy, Mike Mularkey, was coaching the Bills during that period for a couple years too. Your boy. So the fact, and your boy Jerry Gray. So the fact that, at least Lee Evans was able to be productive, with the situation that was going on there. Even T.O. was there for 1 year. He didn't break 1,000 yards. He was getting older. That was like basically his second or third to last year at that point. But he did fine. I remember he did fine that year, but it was just a mess. They had like Trent Edwards and some other, non-impressive quarterbacks in that period. It just, maybe Fitzpatrick had just gotten there 2008 or 9, maybe, right before he ended up changing. So the Bills situation there in that period, it was a mess. But the wide receivers, they were fine. But Lee Evans was good. That was the one guy that you looked at and was like, okay, this guy's good. This is like the one guy that they have. And for having a wide receiver, 1,000-yard wide receiver back in this day and age, with their quarterback situation that they had, it's kind of impressive. So that's something to take note of as for sure. Remember, they also had like J.P. Lossman, Kelly Holcomb, names like this. These quarterbacks were terrible for the Bills, just terrible. So the fact that, their wide receivers were really able to do anything is impressive. The next impressive one, though, so he was a wide receiver coach for a year in Carolina. That was the year the Panthers stunk. They had Jimmy Clausen. They had just a whole bunch of mess going on. It was just a disaster. I'm not going to blame him for that. But then he went to Denver. And this is by far the most encouraging and impressive stint. So he was with Denver 2011 through 2017. This is when he was with Brian Callahan for a stint, and they won a Super Bowl together in 2015. This is the most impressive because this is where he developed Demaryius Thomas, who was raw coming out of Georgia Tech, made him into I don't know what to say he made him, but you have to assume was influential in him becoming a Pro Bowl wide receiver, at times a top 5-ish, at the very least top 10 wide receiver in the league. Emmanuel Sanders, who came there as a free agent and continued to do well. Eric Decker, who also did some progressing there before he ended up leaving. But Eric Decker had some nice years there as well. Wes Welker, who was a veteran at that point, had some nice years as well. That was the, productive Broncos offense. Now, was a lot of that Peyton Manning? Yeah. Okay, a lot of it was Peyton Manning. But the wide receivers were really good. It was literally the most productive, still is, right? The most productive passing offense ever, 55 passing touchdowns from Peyton Manning in 2013. Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Okay, so to progress Demaryius Thomas, to progress Eric Decker, to continue to get Emmanuel Sanders to be productive, and Wes Welker, good. Now, there were some guys that never progressed, like Cody Latimer, who was a bust. Now he's like a damn tight end, I think. He was just a mess. And maybe some other guys that could have done a little more. But that two-headed monster, though, with Thomas and Decker and then Thomas and Sanders was legit. That's when the wide receivers were playing really well for Denver. And then after 2017, he then moved on to the Giants. Now, the Giants, this is where I have a problem with Tyke Tolbert because I did not see enough progression from literally the last 6 years. Except for DJ Moore, which he now coached for the Bears last years. But he was with the Giants from 2018 through 2021. In that time, the Giants have taken a number of wide receivers. Now, they didn't take one in the first, so I guess you can defend him on that. But they've been waiting and waiting and waiting for Sterling Shepard to progress and be healthy. So I will defend a little bit there because Sterling Shepard has just had a problem staying healthy. They have waited for Darius Slayton to continue to progress. He's capped out of being a 700-yard wide receiver. They ended up losing Odell when he was there, so I won't blame him too much for that. But the Giants have not had, and Kadarius Toney, who they took, he only had him for his rookie year, but it was not a productive year. So in the from 2018 to 2021, when he was a wide receiver coach, I did not see those wide receivers do anything in New York. It's been a problem position for them for the last 6 years for which he was there. It's been a problem position for them. Next to that offensive line and quarterback, which at times has actually been decent, the wide receivers of the Giants were not good in that period. They weren't good. And then last 2 years for the Bears. In 2022, Darnell Mooney took a hell of a step back, and not even 2020, and in 2023. And then this year, okay, DJ Moore did great. Over 1,300 yards with him. But my argument against that is DJ Moore was already good. DJ Moore already had 3,000-yard wide receiving yard seasons in this league. Now, this was his most productive. He had 8 touchdowns as opposed to his normal 4 that he had like every year, despite getting like 1,100 yards. But there was a reason why DJ Moore was considered basically worth a first-round pick whenever the Bears traded for him, right? That was basically what he was considered in that trade. So, I mean, he was a first-round pick. So, I think DJ Moore was already broken out. You know, I mean, they put him maybe in a position to see, but Darnell Mooney fell off a map. Now, you can argue, is some of this on the wide receivers themselves? Maybe they're just not very good. Maybe Darnell Mooney's not very good. Maybe Sterling Shepard isn't very good. Maybe Darius Slayton isn't very good. Maybe Kadarius Toney isn't very good. Maybe, who else did the Giants have? Did they have? No, Wandell wasn't there yet. Maybe these guys just weren't very good. But in the last 6 years, I have not now seen a wide receiver progress with him. So after great work with Demaryius Thomas, great work with Eric Decker, great work with Emmanuel Sanders, great work with Wes Welker, great work, helping that wide receiver game be as good as productive as it was for Denver. And remember, those wide receivers ended up carrying Peyton Manning and Trevor Siemian in 2015, or not even Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler in 2015, and then in 2016, Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, because they weren't good. So the wide receivers were very good in Denver for his time there. Since then, I haven't seen enough. But he's been doing it for 20 years, and the game hasn't changed that much. And they know each other well. So I'm willing to let it slide. I'm not going to be super critical of it. I'm just saying, okay, I don't know if this is a home run. Okay, it just seems fine. And maybe he'll recover the magic again in Denver, or maybe the game is passing by at this point. So there's some nice examples: Anquan Bolden, Lee Evans, Demaryius, and then there's some examples of the last 6 years where it's just like, okay, I don't know if you're progressing these young wide receivers anymore. So we'll see. Ultimately, our talent has been the main problem. Mostly, except for Traylon has talent. He's just not consistent. So I'm not expecting Tyke Tolbert to be the one to make him consistent. Maybe he can do his Demaryius Thomas talent on him. And wow. So we are getting Bill Callahan. So this news just came down the pipeline. I'm seeing you guys in the chat now. So are we getting him as assistant head coach or just offensive line coach? Let's see. Why does news keep breaking when I go live at night now? So, yes. Bill Callahan is coming to become the offensive line coach, right? I'm not seeing offensive line coach is likely joining his son, Brian, the new head coach. Sources tell me he's received permission to interview with his son. They weren't going to block. So, just coming as offensive line coach. Okay, great. So, awesome. So, Bill Callahan now joining his son, offensive line coach now, presumably. And I assume he would probably be associate head coach as well. You might as well. I mean, unless if you just think it'd just be too weird to have, your dad be it'd be like nepotism for your dad to be associate head coach as well. Okay. I think there's a fair argument for that. But getting him is huge because, he's done incredible work with the Browns the last 4 years, being their offensive line coach. The offensive line has, without a doubt, been a strength of that offense and the strength of that offense. So you love to see that as well. So here we go live. Live breaking news there. Bill Callahan now joining his son, Brian Callahan. I know a lot of people wanted that. And look, I prefer this to Mike Munchak because Mike Munchak been out the game, guys. And I know, look, sometimes we're a little too nostalgic here, guys. Mike Munchak ain't been the offensive line coach here in a decade, okay? And then before, the last 2 years he was with Denver, and the last year didn't go great. So I'll let him go to like Pittsburgh or something. He wants to get back with Arthur Smith. But Bill Callahan's relevant. He's been doing it the last 4 years and done really well. And he's going to help out his son. So we have the Callahans and we have Rand, and we are now implementing the plan. Okay, the plan is in fruition. The plan is in motion, and you have to be excited by this for the very least. Well, I can criticize Tyke Tolbert. I cannot criticize what Bill Callahan has done the last 4 years. And having an experienced guy is huge, huge, huge as Brian Callahan progresses into his new role as head coach, as his dad was a former head coach with the Raiders and interim head coach for the, at the time, Redskins. So love to see that. Wow. All right, so I'm going to have to update this title of this video. That's fantastic. I saw a super chat, but the message was retracted. If you want to send it again as not a super chat, I'll read it. Or if you just don't want me to read it anymore, that's fine. That's pretty much all I wanted to say today. Let's see what else. Yeah, if you still want your super chat read, feel free to send it again. If not, then we can cut this a little bit short and get out of here. And I'll let other people continue with the Bill Callahan coverage because I'm sure some people will be going live right after this and give you more Bill Callahan coverage. So also, oh, and yeah, someone asked, are we getting new uniforms? No, that's total lie. Also, can people explain to me why? Okay, maybe if you just don't like our uniforms now, then that's fine. Why does everyone want new uniforms though? I just don't like. We literally just got them. Like literally, it was 6 years ago now. But that's literally so quick in the NFL. It's madness. Who changes their uniforms that often? Like maybe the Bucks. The Bucks did it, I guess. Here we go. Okay, here's the super chat that just came in. This comes from Sportacular, who says the following. If it will let me read it. Okay, there we go. He says, do you think Wilson was hired because the secondary was the weakest, and do you think you get Sneed in free agency? I wouldn't necessarily go that far as of this moment. And was it the weakest? Because I'd argue, okay, sure, that's fine. You can argue our secondary was the weakest. Also, why is my... That's probably not good. Give me 1 second. I have to plug in my laptop before this dies. And then I answer your super chat. We were about to be mid-disaster there for a second. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Looks like my sound cut out for a second. Okay, so my mic should be back now. Yeah, I'm not sure where exactly I cut out, but yeah, just in reference to Dennard Wilson and L'Jarius Sneed, I don't know if we're gonna get Sneed. I would wish that we do. He would be a great target for us to get. I'd love for us to get some big free agent corner. We all know that we need one because probably Christian Fulton is leaving, and that is someone that we absolutely need to replace. So without a doubt, I'd love to get Sneed, but I can't tell you what he wants to do. I can't tell you if he wants to come to the city. I can't tell you if he wants money. I can't tell you if he wants to win games. I can't tell you. And until I have any sort of rumors on that, I'm just guessing. And I'd rather not just guess. But I can tell you that's probably someone that they're going to be interested in for sure. So yeah, that's what I'd have to say on that. And we also have a question I want to answer from Jose Bustos, or Bustos. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. What are your expectations now you kind of know what the coaching staff is like? You know what? I actually, and I'm not going to kid you guys actually, and I don't want to go overboard, and I won't go overboard. I am now actually pretty damn optimistic about this next season. And I don't want to go crazy on that, but I think I'd be very surprised now if we're worse next year, which, I mean, to a lot of people, that wasn't going to happen anyway. But I really think that the way Brian Callahan is building this staff and the way we're taking this new analytical approach and the way Carthon is building this team, because, again, I think this was a large Carthon hire and suggestion here. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was more of a Carthon hire here. They're doing everything right now. They're checking every single box. This is right. This is right. This is right. This is right. I have some problems with Tyke Tolbert, but it's not bad, right? They haven't done one thing bad yet. So if they keep doing, the correct things, and, we were speculating, could they get Bill Callahan? We were hopeful, but now we got that done. So they're just keep doing everything right, everything right, everything right. And our roster is going to be better than it was last year. There's just no way it's not. So you're already talking about at least a 2-win improvement. I think at least. Okay, at least. And if we're competing for the playoffs next year with Will Levis in year 2, that's a W. If we make it or not, great. If we do, obviously, we'd love to make it. But if we go 9-8 next year, that's a damn W. I don't care if we make the playoffs or not. That's a damn W, because you would anticipate the year after, okay, we're definitely making the playoffs, and then hopefully we're a true contender at that point. And that's all you can ask for. So the fact that that's where we're headed, this is why Mike Vrabel was fired, because we were headed in the wrong direction. Now you see things changing, and you have to feel that we're headed in the right direction. So luckily, if they do it right in the offseason, they don't screw it up. And with how bad our left tackle situation has been, it's not going to be that bad anymore. The pay call is not going to be that bad anymore. The defense is going to probably improve. The good thing is we didn't get that bad. I mean, this year was bad, and we probably should have went 5-12. But we went 6-11. And looks like that's as bad as it's going to get. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then hopefully we just have to hope that this is a true contender that we're building and not just a facade. Is my audio cut out again? It should be good. I'm not getting anything wrong on that. Maybe this guy's just behind. But we'll see. And then someone also said, this actually just came through from Sportacular. Do you take neighbors or alts if they are there at 7? Yeah. Now, I still don't like doing this because it's still early and things are going to change. Again, because this is so stupid to me. In November, hell, in October, actually. In October, people were telling me that there's no way Olu Fashanu is going to be there at 7. Everyone was telling me that. And I was like, how the hell do you know? Seriously, how do you know that? And then now you look at mock drafts, he's going 11, he's going 12. As soon as he's going 11 or 12. So now people think he's the 3rd or 4th offensive tackle. So I still think Alt might move down. I'm going to be honest with you, because Alt has some athletic limitations that are going to be exposed in the combine. When that happens, even his draft stock might become a bit of a question. Be prepared for that. I think Neighbors is going to do well. Now people are having Rome Odunze over Neighbors a little bit. So I still think it's early to just, I know everyone wants to go buy the damn jersey, damn near. But just let the draft board play out. We still got plenty of time to worry about who's going to be picked with the number 7 pick. Just be happy that we have the damn number 7 pick and that we're headed in the right direction. All right, so that's gonna do it for me here. I might be back tomorrow to discuss the Bill Callahan hiring more, or if we also hire some other candidates as well. Hopefully tomorrow we even offensive coordinator hire. That would be good content. Since I already talked about Callahan today, that's not great content, but we'll see. I'll probably try to be back tomorrow to make another video this week, but we will see. But Titans very impressive, getting Dennard Wilson mid on Tyke Tolbert, but then now getting Bill Callahan. At least he's going to interview. From what I saw, it's just an interview, but he's going to get hired. How you not hire your damn dad? That's a little crazy, dog. So he's going to get hired now that they've given us permission to interview him. So that's what I'm anticipating now. Until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment. I'm out. See you all later.